What's up, Karma Nation? It is that time of the year, your favorite time, March Madness, baby. We got the GOAT of college basketball brackets. We got Dom in here. And of course, if you guys have been paying attention to anything inside of our Bet Karma Discord channels, Ben himself, just in conference championship week alone, won the entire community thousands of dollars, especially Anthony, who bets well beyond my bankroll with his bet slips. So Ben's on fire. Dom's always on fire. You see their Twitter handles underneath their faces. Make sure you guys follow them on Twitter. And what we're going to do is what we do every year. We're going to go through the bracket. We're not going to go through every single matchup because that's just boring and tedious. We're going to go through our favorite underdog plays, our favorite upsets, who we think's going to win, our favorite matchups, and then a few other things along the way. Now, make sure if you like money that you download the Bet Karma app and then click, once you download the Bet Karma app, in the top left, you'll see it says Bracket Contest. We brought back our bracket contest. It is 100% free to enter, and the grand prize is $10,000 with a bunch of other prizes included there as well. So download the Bet Karma app by going to betkarma.com/app, betkarma.com/app, and then click Bracket Contest, or on the website. If you don't want to download the app, that's fine. It's still in the main menu. It says Bracket Contest. Click on that, enter your username, fill out a bracket before the Thursday games start. Because if you wait too long, it is too late. $10,000 grand prize, free to enter. The last thing before we get started as well, as you see on the left side of the screen, we have free to use college basketball prediction tools as well as other college basketball betting tools. So if you want to get AI predictive analytics on spread outcomes, money line totals, all of that stuff, I don't know why we're still making it free, but for some reason I decided to make it free the entire year. So it still is through March Madness. Go to the BetKarma app or betkarma.com. You see there in the left side, you just click on any of the tools, select NCAA B, and it's right there. And then the links at the top, of course, explain how to use them if you are new to BetKarma. So I'm going to start off with Dom here. When Selection Sunday was happening and the brackets was rolling out, I know we were talking before we started recording that you make a first impression or what did you call it? What was your spontaneous bracket called?
Yeah, first impression, knee-jerk reaction. I mean, just basically I'm bursting with excitement. I just got to fill out a bracket immediately.
And so, out of everything, so I know we're going to go quadrant by quadrant here in a second, but out of everything that you saw on Selection Sunday, when it came down to sexiest matchups overall, when you saw those two seeds in the same spot together, you're like, heck yeah, that's the best first round matchup, or maybe even if it's a play-in matchup. What was that one for you when Selection Sunday was
Wow.
happening?
Do I have to pick just one?
Oh yeah, just one.
All
And
right.
this is
Well,
this
I'll
is
go
not
with the
potential
most
matchup.
popular
This is
one then.
actual round one matchup, not potential.
First round, I mean, there's a few that I have my eyes on. I can't wait to watch. There's storylines all over the place. But I mean, Duke Oral Roberts is just money. I mean, got to go with that because that's going to draw the most attention with Duke, obviously. Duke just won the ACC tournament. They're peaking at the right time. They're fully healthy, and they've been rolling ever since. But then you have Oral Roberts, who, I mean, 2 years ago, they made a Sweet 16 run. I wouldn't be shocked if they did the same thing again this year. They're that good. Max Abmas is back. He's going to be the best guard on the floor in that game. And then now they're going to have the tallest player in that game too. Yeah, Duke's got a pair of 7-footers in that matchup. But Connor Vanover is 7'5", 7'6", and he's a tall, skinny, lanky one that can move in ball screens. And I mean, Duke has really struggled in ball screens all year long. So I think Oral Roberts has the playing style with the ball screens and the mismatches to really shred Duke. It'll be probably a high-scoring game because I don't think either defense can really stop each other. And I mean, that spread opened, I think, 7.5. It's already down to about 6.5. I'd be surprised if it keeps going down because Duke always takes public money. But that's definitely a doggy I have my eye on in that 5-12 matchup in the first round.
Would you also say that is your favorite double-digit seed potential upset out of the entire thing as well with Oral Roberts?
I think so because, I mean, I think this year the 11, 12, 13 seeds, which are a lot of mid-major teams, are some of the best we've ever seen, at least in the past decade. And then on the flip side are, Power Six teams that are in like the 3, 4, 5 seed lines are some of the weakest we've ever seen. With NIL kind of dispersing the talent, with some Hall of Fame coaches retiring over the last few years, I really think this sport has as much parity as ever. There's no dominant force this year. So with that, I think a lot of double-digit seeds are going to get wins. Oral Roberts is one that I think can actually rack up multiple wins and make the second weekend. If you look ahead, if they were to get past Duke, they'd be playing either Tennessee or Louisiana. Tennessee just lost their starting point guard. That is a big toll on a team when your offense has to deal without having their starting point guard. Tennessee has struggled in offense to begin with before that. So now when you throw that in the mix, they could really struggle. So if Tennessee makes it out of the first round, I don't see them beating Oral Roberts or Duke.
All right, and then Ben, same question for you. Once the bracket matchups were coming out, what's that first thing? Whether it's the same Duke, Oral Roberts or not, what is that first thing that popped down? You're like, yes, this is what I will. Out of the 6 million channels that'll be airing March Madness games consecutively at the same time, what's that one you're like, this is a channel, this is the game I'm tuning into?
Yeah, I agree with Dom. That's going to be a great game. One that stuck out to me was Miami and Drake. Only a 2.5-point spread right now. Drake, really experienced team, like really old starting lineup. They shoot the ball really well. Miami's not a good defensive team, so that's definitely a team you could see get upset. But I mean, 2.5-point spread for a 12-5 is pretty close. So I think if people like upsets, that's definitely one to watch out for.
Now, I can't remember how many years ago. I'm sure this is probably in Dom's memory because I'm sure every game of the last like 5 years in terms of odds and everything is just stored in that memory bank of yours. But wasn't there in the last like 2 or 3 years that a 12 seed by tip-off was actually favored over the 5 seed? I can't remember what matchup it was, but I remember seeing that. I go, wait, this doesn't make any sense. Does that ring any bells?
I mean, I don't know exactly which matchup, but I don't think it's that uncommon to see a 12 seed favored. Certainly, we see a lot of 10 seeds favored over 7 seeds. That happens quite often. 10-7 is usually like a coin flip, but 5-12s, I mean, you see a 12 seed win just about every single year. A few years back, I think there was 3 of them.
I think it was
Last year was I think it was 11-6, but I think Michigan was favored over Colorado State.
The team is on the tip of my tongue. It's I know if I can go back and look at the brackets, I know exactly what it is. It's like 3 words in the name of the school, and I can't. It's not Sam Houston State. It's whatever. I'll figure. I'll get back to it. But
I know Liberty was a 12 that won a couple of years ago, but I don't think they were favored. I think that was more of like a 2-3 point spread.
Yeah, I'll remember it. But yeah. So that's very interesting to see. I don't know if there's any 13s that are any close to 4s. I have to go back and look at them again. But of course, if you're like, hey, what do the odds look like for all these matchups? Again, the college basketball tools on the BetKarma app are available to you guys throughout this entire March Madness season. So let's go ahead and start things off by the actual quadrant itself. We're going to be focused on the South. Now, if you're like, what the heck is the South? If you're looking on the brackets on the $10,000 bracket contest on BetKarma or ESPN or somewhere else, the South on every bracket is the top left. So the top left is where we're going to start with Alabama being the number 1 overall seed. Dom, going back to you here. Out of these particular matchups, hit me with your favorite matchup and then your favorite upset pick. Of course, upset, I would say upset being, a double-digit seeder or higher than that. So go ahead.
I really only see 2 upsets in this. I mean, I'll probably tinker all week long as I dive more into the matchups and everything. But looking at this bracket right now, I don't know if you call 8-9 really an upset, but I really do like West Virginia in that first round game against Maryland. I mean, you got Bob Huggins. This guy is as experienced of a coach as there is when it comes to the tournament. And I just see them getting out of the first round against Maryland. These are 2 teams that play a similar style. They want to kind of grind it out and make it pretty ugly. And Maryland has been a team that really thrived at home. And when you take them out of College Park this year, that's where they really struggled. So neutral site there, I like West Virginia. But in terms of upset, real upset, I guess I'll say, the 4-13 game between Virginia and Furman. This is not one of Virginia's best teams under Tony Bennett. This is a team that struggled with some injuries. Ben Vanderplas has been out recently, and he's one of the guys that they need to go to for scoring. So Virginia's defense is always there, but their offense is not always shining. they've bounced between like a triangle offense and like this Tony Bennett mover blocker offense this year. The fact that he's been changing it up shows me that they're kind of struggling to score, and they don't know what the answer is. So they play the pack line defense. You got to shoot over them to make shots and to really beat them. Furman's a team that I wouldn't say they're one of the best 3-point shooting teams, but they can get hot. They have experience. And so I don't know what that spread is right now. I think it was around 5. I don't know if you guys have that. Take a look. But that's one.
Right now, it's 5.5 right now across the board.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 5.5.
Yeah, that's one I'd have my eye on is Furman. The Paladins plus a couple possessions.
Before we go to for Ben for the same ones, the question is I know we had the Houston upset in the tournament or the conference tournament final, and a few other things happened for some other teams, but is Alabama deserving of the number 1 overall, Dom?
On the court, yes. They're a hard team to root for right now. I mean, they literally had a murderer on their team. He's not on the team anymore. But their best player, who's the best freshman in the country and is going to be an NBA lottery pick, is the accessory to murderer. Literally brought a gun to a teammate that said he was in an altercation and needed his gun. And then there's a dead woman. So it's a really messed up situation. I mean, I don't think a lot of programs would be letting Brandon Miller play right now. But he is. So I don't think I really do like Nate Oates. I don't think he's handled this situation very well. I don't think he's really being a strong leader.
A possibility within this entire tournament that could change and he could be pulled from the team or just from playing time in general?
If you asked me a week ago, I would have said yes, and that's why I was hesitant to place any futures bets on Alabama, because I figured, the administration, the school board, somebody has to come down and put some disciplinary actions in place. But then they rolled through the SEC tournament and they just didn't care. So, legally, Brandon Miller is innocent. He hasn't been charged with anything. Technically, I guess he didn't do anything illegal. So that's what they're rolling with. They're backing their guy. I think most schools, most programs have a code of conduct and, a culture they want to uphold, and they probably would have dished out some sort of punishment or suspension. But hey, Alabama's not doing it. So if you set all that noise aside, it seems like the first few games after that news broke, they struggled. They didn't cover the spread. They had some close games against some bad teams. Who was, I think, South Carolina. I think they struggled with down the stretch. They went to overtime with South Carolina. It was just the bottom of the barrel in the SEC. But then this SEC tournament started, and it just seems like they kind of put that past them. The distractions went away. They went to the neutral site and they started playing, and they just rolled. And Texas A&M was looking pretty hot. And then on Sunday, Alabama just did not have a problem with them whatsoever. On the court, I think, yes, Alabama deserves that. I still think maybe Houston's the best team in the country, but there's probably 1A, 1B. So I have no problem at all with Alabama being the 1 overall.
So winner of this quadrant, is it easily Alabama because they're starting everybody on the team and not benching anyone? Or is there, I don't know. I guess my question is, so who's your favorite to win this bracket? And then I guess on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most like confidence points, how confident are you in them winning that quadrant?
I think they're the most reliable. I think they're the safest pick. Now the number 1 overall seed, I think, rarely actually wins the entire NCAA tournament. Just in recent memory, it's typically a 1 seed, but it's not the number 1 overall. Just the way the chips have fallen. Alabama is very strong. They're great on offense. They're great on defense. They have the makeup of a championship team. If you look at the past champions, what do they have? Well, they have experienced guards. They have senior guards that aren't going to fold under pressure. Most championship teams have an NBA caliber wing, which Brandon Miller absolutely is. They have a 7-footer, Bediako down low, sophomore. They have a good coach, and Nate Oates is a very good coach. So they have the mix and the makeup of a championship caliber team. Arizona is the 2 seed in the South, and Arizona's ceiling, I think, is one of the teams that could beat Alabama. Now, the problem is getting Arizona to play at its ceiling for 4 straight games to make the Final Four. I don't know if we can count on that, but at their best, Arizona absolutely can beat them.
All right. So, Ben, moving over to you for the same South here. Favorite overall matchup and then favorite underdog pick. Unless that, I mean, it could be the same things, same game. So let me know what you got.
Yeah, I agree with Dom that most likely upset in the first round definitely I think is Furman over Virginia just because of how they play. Furman's so good offensively. Virginia already terrible offensively, and then like he said, Ben Vanderplas being out really hurts them. So I do agree that's the most likely upset. Utah State's at 10, but they're actually favored in that game, so I'm not going to count that as an upset. But I do think that they win. I like that team a lot. As far as like to come out of this, so I play my March Madness brackets. Travis obviously knows that I do a lot of daily fantasy stuff, so I play these very similarly to daily fantasy, and I try. How I look at it is you get to see the ownership before the game's lock, right? Imagine, Travis, we got to play NBA or NFL DFS, but we got to see what other teams looked like prior to playing because you can look up the public pick percentage. Alabama, it's early. We've only had like not even 24 hours of data, but per Yahoo, Alabama is the most popular national title pick, over 20% of brackets. They're far and away the most popular pick to make the Final Four from the region, over 35%. So I do think that there's merit to not taking them, but I do think they're obviously the best team. Brandon Miller, I think you can make the case he's just the best overall player in the entire country. Like he's that good.
So when you said, well, to jump in there, right? So you said Yahoo's got like Alabama with 20% of the championship picks. How is that on par with like every single year? Is that like on par exactly? Common. Is it higher or lower?
Yeah, I'd have to pull it up for sure, but I know last year Gonzaga was hugely picked. The year that Duke had Zion and RJ Barrett and all them, they were massively picked to win.
When they cheated against UCF. And,
yeah. Well, I try to avoid the most popular pick. But I haven't made like a bracket yet, so I don't know. But I do think Alabama obviously is the best team. Agree, Arizona could beat them. I think I want to ask Dom. I'm actually curious because I'm kind of been higher on Creighton. I know they haven't been playing well. Like they didn't play good in the Big East tournament at all. But what would your thoughts be on a potential like Creighton versus Alabama? Like how would you see that going down?
I mean, I don't trust Creighton to just keep winning and just keep playing their best. Like, kind of similar feelings to Arizona, right? If Creighton plays at their best, I mean, their ceiling is as good as anyone in this region. I do think Creighton's a team that can make the Sweet 16. I think the winner of Creighton-Arizona potential matchup would give Alabama a tough game. It's just really who you want to depend on more.
Yeah,
but they have the size, they have the shooting,
I think
they have the experience.
The depth is an issue. Like they just don't. I don't know. I don't really trust their bench, but their starting five is super good. I don't know. It's tough. I like Creighton a little bit. I wanted to know. I think Charleston over San Diego State is going to be like a super chalky upset pick, and I just don't. Do you see this, Dom? I don't know. I know I know their conference has struggled in the tournament. San Diego State in particular struggled in the tournament, but I don't know. I think I like San Diego State to probably win a couple games. I don't know if you agree with that.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I wouldn't be taking Charleston over San Diego State, especially if that's a public pick there. I mean, Charleston's great.
Like,
they
like
won a lot of
30%.
games. Oh wow!
I think like 30%. Yeah.
Yeah, people haven't been following all season. Charleston won 31 games. That's how outstanding it is. But what is their best win on the season? Probably a game at home against Kent State that they squeaked out by one possession. Now, again, I like Kent State. I think they've actually gotten better. I can't really say I think Charleston's gotten better. I mean, they played some tight games down the stretch. San Diego State is a really tough team. San Diego State's going to have, the best scorers, I'll say, with multiple scores between Trammell, transfer from Seattle last year, that small point guard that can score. And then Matt Bradley is just a professional scorer. So they still got Nate Mensa down low. Seems like he's been there like 6-7 years, rim protector. And they've always had good defense, but this year I think they really stepped up on offense. So I like the Aztecs. Where is this game played? This is in Orlando. That's one thing going against the Aztecs.
Travis going to be at this game.
Yeah, there you go, Travis. You'll be rooting on either Aztecs or Charleston. But that's kind of tough travel on San Diego State to have to go all the way across the country. But
yeah, it is. Last note, Travis. I don't know. I haven't made a decision. I probably won't pick Bama though for my main bracket if they're that chalky, but maybe I will. I have no idea.
Are you saying
I just
to
want to
win?
know.
You're not going to pick Bama to win the quadrant, or just to
Yeah.
win like
So
everything?
I got to think about it. If I'm definitely if they end up being the most popular team, I'm not going to pick them to win the title for sure. But
you can
I
still put
might
them in your
take them to
Final
the
Four,
Final
though.
Four. Yeah,
Okay.
I have to think about it. I will just say, watch the Missouri. If you guys don't watch a lot of college basketball, watch Missouri, Utah State. Utah State's really fun to watch, man. They can shoot so well. Jake Funk is a beast. They're just a fun team to watch. So if you like to watch offense, I think there's gonna be a lot of offense in that game.
All right, so let's take a hop, skip, and a jump over here to the Midwest, which for those who are looking at the brackets on the desktop or watching this on their mobile phone or vice versa, that is the top right. The top right of your bracket is the Midwest, with Houston as the number 1 seed. So, a question for the encyclopedia of college basketball in Dom's brain is do you have the data off the top of your head on how many consecutive, if it is even consecutive, March Madnesses where a play-in seed, an 11, 12, whatever the play-in seed, made it to the second weekend? Hasn't that happened every single time, or is
I
it just?
want to say every time since they started making those 11 seeds playing games. I mean, off the top of my head, UCLA beat Michigan State in the play-in game when UCLA made their Final Four run. Was Michigan playing when they beat?
There was it was 2 or 3 years ago. Syracuse was a 12 seed play-in, and they made it to the Sweet 16, I believe. I'm pretty sure
Syracuse
that's
did it
accurate.
as a play-in, absolutely. A play-in has won multiple games, I believe, every year since they started that play-in, and there's been instances of them making deep runs as well. It's kind of like the team that gets hot, right? I mean, in these conference tournaments last week, we saw a lot of times where the better teams with a bye or a double bye that have just been sitting idly by for a week had to play a team that was already on a roll, already been playing in that venue, and got hot. And the better teams struggled against the hotter teams. Now this, playing games are all in Dayton, and then they have to go travel somewhere else, so that's challenging. That is travel to the mix, but it's once they get hot, especially shooting teams, if they start getting hot from their shots falling, it's watch out.
So, on that note, as we go to the Midwest here, my first question before we get to the same old questions is this Mississippi State Pitt play-in game where the winner plays Iowa State? Is this that matchup? If one, well, what's the other one? We have Mississippi State play, and then was it Arizona State and Nevada is the only other one that's not the 16
Right.
seed? Yeah. Okay, so out of those two, if one does it, is this the winner of this game? Is that the one that beats that 6 seed, or is it the other matchup that we're going to get to later on?
I mean, my vote would be Pitt. Yeah, my vote would be Pitt out of Mississippi State, Pitt, Arizona State, and Nevada. I think Pitt's the best offense and the team that can really get hot. And so, riding that same theory, if they're getting hot and their shots are falling, then I think they could win. Iowa State's not an offensive powerhouse, so they can definitely get outscored. So, yeah, that'd be my vote.
All right, so best or favorite matchup in this one, and then favorite underdog pick.
My favorite matchup is Penn State, Texas A&M. So here's one I already bet last night as the bracket was coming out, and I saw lines, and I instantly bet Penn State getting 3.5 points. I think it fell down to like 2.5. Now it might be back around 3.5. But they're the 10 seeds, so they're technically the underdog to Texas A&M. But I mean, Texas A&M's Buzz Williams, his entire defensive scheme is to switch and try to clog the driving lanes. They clog the paint. They don't want you to drive against them. So that forces their opponents to take a lot of threes. This year, the SEC had a historically down year for three-point shooting. The SEC was worse than, I believe, all the other Power 6 conferences shooting the three. So that worked really well for Texas A&M. They did great in the SEC. They made it deep in the tournament before they lost to Alabama. Penn State takes and makes threes at a higher rate than any other team in the tournament. So, I mean, we saw Penn State get hot in the Big Ten tournament and make it to the title game. That's a team that can just literally shred apart Texas A&M's defensive scheme. So I love that. Love Penn State there. And then staying in the Big Ten, Indiana as a 4 seed has looked really, really good at times. I know some people are starting to pick them as a Final Four candidate. I think they're going to have a tough matchup against Kent State. I mean, there's coaching history there. The Kent State's coach, they play a physical defense that can bang the boards with Indiana. Sincere Carey is a great point guard. I think he's the best guard in that game. So I mean that's maybe a 5-point spread or so. That one's been moving as well. I think some action came in on Kent State and then started to balance out. But that 4-13 matchup, Indiana-Kent State, I would not be shocked to see Kent State pull off a win there. We've seen MAC teams do it in recent history as well.
I think you were saying for the Penn State, so you could still get 3.5 on Penn State on points bet according to our odds comparison. So
there you go.
Everybody else is like 2.5 now. And then what was the other one we just?
Kent State, Indiana.
Let me see what that's at right now. If you're looking for Kent State, the best line right now is 4.5, and that's on FanDuel. Yeah. So, who's your? Well, you've kind of already touched this a bajillion times throughout the entire season, so I already know the answer to this question. But I'm guessing you're locking in Houston for the Final Four out of this side. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, it's chalky. I just said Alabama in the first region. Now I like Houston in the second region. But I mean, Kelvin Sampson's kind of been building up to this, right? This guy's been around for years. He's had success in the tournament in the past, multiple teams. He's made Elite Eight with multiple teams. But if you look at the last couple of tournaments, they made the Elite Eight last year, and they looked really good. Year before that, they made the Final Four. This is actually their most talented team yet. So you got Final Four, Elite Eight. I feel like they've been working up to this, and then all of a sudden the brackets fall in. Oh, the Final Four happens to be in Houston this year, so Houston could have a nice little welcome home party when they get back to Houston to win a couple games and win the national championship. But what they were missing in years past was really 3-point shooting. But I think some of that has been alleviated with Marcus Sasser just killing it from deep this year. He's shooting 38% on the season, and then Jarris Walker came in, their freshman, and he was a stud, highly recruited freshman, and he's shooting the rock well from three as well. So, I mean, this team is always the best offensive rebounding team in the country. They're going to get extra possessions. They're going to get putbacks, and then now they add some 3-point shooting into the mix. I think this is the year that Kelvin Sampson gets over the hump and wins the national championship.
So with the American title game where they got smacked around by Memphis, did that bring Houston in your personal mental rankings down a peg, or that just shoot Memphis up and keep Houston where they're already at? So how did you adjust things with that title game?
Well, Houston was missing Marcus Sasser, and from everything that's out there, it sounds like Sasser could have played, but out of an abundance of caution, they just rested him right for the tournament. So I'm assuming Marcus Sasser is healthy and he's going to play. If he's not, then that definitely changes things. But if Sasser is going to play and he is, who he's been all season long, then no, that game doesn't really mean anything to me. Memphis always plays Houston tough. I bet Memphis twice this season against the spread against Houston, including on Sunday in the championship game. And Memphis is very talented. They're a great team. So that didn't really shock me. But yeah, I'm under the assumption that Mark Sasser is going to play and that they're going to turn it up.
So go ahead.
I love Houston against the spread in their first game against Northern Kentucky. The Horizon League has been getting smacked in the first round against one seeds the last few years. Northern Kentucky's a talented team. Darren Horn's a good coach. They play like a shifting matchup zone defense, but Houston's no stranger to the zone playing in the American. They played Tulane, plays the zone every year. Houston shreds them. And Northern Kentucky with that zone, they can't defensive rebound. They let up a lot of offensive rebounds. So you're talking about Houston, the best offensive rebounding team in the country, a very physical team going against a team that can't clean their own defensive glass. I like Houston to win by, 30.
A bajillion. No, what I was gonna say is that I watched bits and pieces of all the title games, but the only one I watched all the way through was the Houston Memphis one, just because that's UCF's tournament that we didn't get smacked around by Memphis, but of course we got eliminated by Memphis. But seeing them beat Houston, I go, the wound's a little less sore. But they interviewed Penny Hardaway. I want to say it wasn't halftime. I think it was afterwards, and they're like, was Sasser's out for Houston? So do you feel like that, did they were just asking him like, how did that change things, whatever. And then he was like, he like threw it under the rug. He goes, we versed them earlier this year when one of their top guys was out and he was playing, and we still like handled business or something like that. So he was just like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like we had guys out, they had guys out, and we still did what we needed to do. So I thought that was very not cocky, but what's the word I'm looking for?
I mean, so yeah, I think kind of apples and oranges. So Memphis was missing one of their bench players in the previous game, and Memphis still lost a one possession game. I think it was a last second shot buzzer beater that Houston beat them on at Memphis like a week or two ago. And then on Sunday, you're talking about, okay, well, Houston was missing the best player in the entire conference. So I mean, it's a little apples and oranges.
Fair enough. All right, Ben, you already talked about Drake and Miami, so I would already assume that Drake is your favorite upset pick in this bracket, even though it is a small point spread. But is that also your favorite matchup for the Midwest side?
Actually, I agree with Dom. My favorite upset pick is Kent State. I've been on this Kent State team. Travis, bet of the year on Saturday night was Kent State to win. I knew they were making the tournament. It's just no team. I said like last week, any 3, 4, 5 seed does not want to play Kent State. It's probably the number one team I would not want to play because they create a ton of turnovers. They play amazing defense. Carey, Malik Jacobs, those guys can take over a game, and they're better. They're not super tall, but they're better like defensively inside than you would think. It's just a really bad matchup for a lot of teams. So I do think they can beat Indiana. The last 14 years, a double-digit seed has made at least one double-digit seed has made the Sweet 16. So I think that this little quadrant right here could bring that. You have Kent State, you have Drake. I could see doing it. Pitt, like Dom said, if they win, I could see them upsetting Xavier potentially and going. So I think that there's a lot of options for that double-digit seed to make the Sweet 16 from this quadrant. But Kent State is good. I think they're better than a 13th seed, honestly. I know they play in the MAC, but they're just a good team.
So essentially, for those that aren't watching this podcast and aren't listening to Dom and Ben, this is the bracket that's going to be busting, or this is the quadrant to be busting people's brackets with all of the double-digit upsets. Out of the four, this is the one that's got the most chaos, I guess, and in that respect. Is that right?
Not for me. The next one, I think.
All
Are
right.
we doing East next?
Are we doing East or West?
The next one is bottom left. That's East.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, then I'll save my chaos for last.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know. You could get weird a lot of places, but I don't know. I really think Kent State could win like a couple games, but we'll see. I think they could beat Miami if they play Miami.
All right, so let's go ahead and move to the East now, which is, like I said, for everybody out there, the bottom left, with Purdue's number 1 seed. I feel like Memphis, for throttling Houston, granted, sure, they were down in the star player. I feel like 8. I felt like they would be a little bit higher than 8. And then FAU, even though they had, 31, 32 wins, I feel like that seeding, I feel like Memphis is a tad too low, and FAU is I've probably put them like at a 10 or 11 maybe, even though they had that record. It's just like, who have they beaten anybody phenomenal this season?
FAU, you're asking?
Yeah.
I mean, they beat Florida at Florida. That's back when we all thought Florida was good in the very beginning of the season. Turns out they weren't so good. But no, I mean, they haven't. They won 31 games. They're a good team. They shoot the three really well, take a lot of threes, make a lot of threes. So that's the type of team that could upset somebody if they're hot. But I mean, I don't know. I don't love this team. Golden down low, they got a good 7-footer. He actually is, in a lot of mid-major teams, they don't have the center that can match up with like the high major 7-footers. They actually do. So I give him credit there. Vladislav Golden, he can bang down low, but I don't know. It's a good team, but I think they weren't given any favors being matched up against a hot Memphis team right now that plays a really physical ball and is, peaking at the right time.
All right. So for the favorite matchup and upset, Ben, we'll start with you on this one. What is your favorite matchup in this, and then your favorite upset pick?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what Dom was talking about earlier, probably Oral Roberts, Duke. It's a really weird situation because I think Duke, I kind of thought that they would be seeded higher than 5. I feel like like people will say like, oh, Duke has an easy road, but Oral Roberts is legitimately good and they could lose. Like I feel like they got kind of screwed with that. Like that's one of the toughest mid majors to get put up against in your first round. So I mean that's definitely going to be a great game. I don't know Dom. What do you make of Providence, Kentucky? Like this is two teams that I hate. Like I hate both of these teams. I can't stand them.
I was
So
gonna
it's
say
like
the same thing.
having to pick one of these teams is just it's tilting me.
It's two ugly teams that you just wish were playing somebody else so you could bet against them. Just two underperforming teams that just yeah, whoever wins, I just see Kansas State smacking them in the second round.
So
It's gross.
you're siding with, so you're going with Dom's Oral Roberts as the your favorite
Yeah, I don't
upset,
know. I got to think about who I'll pick, but I think that'll be the most fun game probably. Um,
and then who do you have getting the Final Four out of this East side?
okay, well, I'm not going to pick Purdue. Purdue's pretty chalky too. Like looking at that percentages I was talking about, they're the fourth most popular national championship pick. Um, you know, a lot of people have them going to the Final Four. I'm not going to pick Purdue. But the problem with this is like coming in, like a lot of the teams I like, they matched up in the same region. And then like this region specifically, like I was kind of like, I'm a little lower on Marquette, but you know, they're in this, like I have to pick, if I'm not going to pick Purdue, I have to pick somebody. So it's like, who am I going to pick? I would say Duke, but Duke could lose round one. I mean, Kansas State's all right. I don't have like a firm take there. Marquette, I just don't love. So I don't love anyone in this region, I guess. So I'm curious to see what Dom likes here. If I could see myself picking Duke, but I don't know. I really hate this section. Like I don't like this section at
It's a
all.
garbage quadrant. All
It's
right.
bad. I don't like any of these teams.
Two questions before going to the normal stuff for you, Dom. So first one is you mentioned Tennessee star players out. Are you giving any credit to Louisiana Lafayette Raging Cajuns on upsetting Tennessee, or even with that star player out, they still have enough to handle them? So that's the first question. The second one is your Michigan State guys here. Do you automatically pass them through, or do you put all bias aside when looking at this USC matchup?
I like Michigan State against USC. I think they can beat them. I really do. I don't think. I mean, they're playing in Columbus, Ohio, so you got a West Coast team having to fly out east to the Ohio to the Midwest. Michigan State's gonna have a lot of fans down there, so that helps. And Michigan State's really struggled when they have to go out west, so I like that they're staying close to home. There's nothing really that sticks out on USC, so I like them there. And then assuming Marquette gets past John Becker in Vermont in the first round, that Michigan State Marquette second round matchup could be pretty good. Um, Both teams have what I think are deficiencies. I mean, Marquette does not rebound very well, and yet they've had a great season. They're a two seed. Michigan State shoots mid range jumpers all the time. They're the most jump shot dependent team maybe in the bracket, which is not efficient. But at the end of the season, Michigan State was on fire from three, shooting over 50% from three as a team. So if you get that Michigan State, yeah, they could upset a two seed Marquette. But if you get the Michigan State team that played on Saturday or Friday or Saturday, I think Friday against Ohio State, the Big Ten tournament, and they just fall flat after sitting for a week and the jumpers aren't there, well, now they've been sitting for another week and they have to go to a neutral site. That could hurt them. So I don't know. Michigan State, Tom Izzo always finds a way to do it with good guards, and they have a great backcourt this year, maybe the best backcourt in this entire bracket. So, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Izzo pulled his March magic, but also this team can definitely find ways to be disappointing.
Do you think
The
Marquette's
rest,
two seed is too high or just right for everything they've accomplished this season?
I thought they were going to be a 2 or 3 seed. So, I mean, I think they should be happy with the two. I don't think I would ever have considered them for a 1 seed. So,
All right. So Oral Roberts' favorite upset. That was already your kind of number one overall before we got to the section by section. Um, I don't know if I don't think you touched on this yet, but I'm assuming Michigan State automatically by default is your favorite matchup, just because of course you want to see your Spartans in there, especially if they versus Marquette and then have that run there with Izzo. But is that your favorite overall, bias aside, or is it still that Duke Oral Roberts like kind of winning all of your votes for the upset, the favorite, everything, just because you know that Oral Roberts has a good chance to upset Duke?
Yeah, that's my favorite because I think that's just electric. And I think you got a mix of people maybe that are in the know that know about Oral Roberts, or maybe they're just reminiscing about 2 years ago. Max A. Smith led the country in points per game and took them to the Sweet 16. This team is a lot better than that team 2 years ago. And they have a 7'5" guy that can hit threes efficiently and is out there in the pick and roll. And now you got to have, Duke's Derek Lively, run around at the perimeter. Good luck. Duke struggles against pick and roll. So, yeah, good luck guarding them. But then Duke, the rest of the team is just more athletic than Oral Roberts, so they may struggle defending too. So that's electric. Second round matchup, if Memphis and Purdue play, I like Purdue. Zach Edey, I have a bet out there waiting to cash for him to win National Player of the Year at plus 750. That's a slam dunk. Guy's outstanding. He is the best player in college basketball. But they have freshman guards, and when it's time to shine, do you trust them? Can you count on them? And Memphis is like the pressing team that is going to make Purdue start to crap themselves and turn the ball over that we've seen lately at the end of games. So that's like the exact matchup Purdue does not want to see in the second round. So if you're a Purdue fan, I feel like you should be rooting for FAU Owls pretty hard in the first round. There's a lot of teams, like Ben said, that I just don't like in this bracket. Kentucky has just been so disappointing this year. Providence, I do not like them at all. Tennessee and Louisiana, I actually don't like either team there. So it's, I don't know if Tennessee's prime for upset in the first round. But yeah, mentioning that they don't have their point guard, that's going to be a struggle to go deep. Louisiana Raging Cajuns were actually my pick to win the Sun Belt, and I cashed that plus 350. So that was a nice ticket there, but I think there's a big difference, when you step up in competition against a good rebounding team like Tennessee. Kansas State's one team, I guess, that we haven't touched on. They do have a really good backcourt. Marquise Noel, Keontae Johnson, Desi Sills. Desi Sills been doing Elite Eight with Arkansas. I like those guards. Kansas State has not finished the season very well, though. They finished with 2 losses and just, looks like they're running out of gas. So I don't know. This team this bracket is not very pretty for me, and it's kind of like, pick your poison to me.
All right, so let's finally move over to the West Side here. So we're going to talk about the West Side, the same things we've been doing, your favorite upset, your favorite matchup, and then once we get Dom and Ben's input on that, we're going to go to your each of their projected championship game matchups, and then winner, and then we'll add some fun things there at the end after that. So, Dom, sticking with you, West Side, Kansas #1 seed. I know when we were just at the, what was it called, the Midwest, top right? Yeah, the Midwest. I said, is this the one where you're going to have a lot of chaos? It's going to be busting brackets. And you said, this is the one that's going to make people angry. Is that right?
I think so. I think this is the madness section. Just blow it up. Blow up your bracket. I think this has the worst 1 seed. I think it has the worst 2 seed. Who's our 3 and 4? Gonzaga and UConn.
Yeah.
I think Gonzaga and UConn are 2 best teams in this bracket. And the 3rd best team in this bracket is a double-digit seed. So, yeah, blow up this bracket. I think it's going to be madness.
All right, so what's your favorite matchup, and then who's your well, I'm assuming you have multiple upset picks then for this madness one, so who's your favorite out of all of the upsets?
I love VCU. I think they're going to beat St. Mary's. There's another 5-12. Like I said, I think the double-digit seeds, 11, 12, 13s are really strong this year. VCU is great. They've only lost, I think, 2 or 3 games since the new year. With Ace Baldwin back, they've just looked like a much better team. He's a great point guard. They have multiple high major transfers, a couple guys from Michigan. They're just a really good team that's peaking at the right time. They have the physicality that can, I think, give St. Mary's problems. So I like VCU. Wouldn't be surprised if they win 1 or more games. They're a double-digit seed. Besides that, for upsets, I mean, I don't know if Iona can beat UConn, but I mean, that is a very interesting matchup there. It's in Albany, so you got both teams are pretty local. Really close game for Iona. That doesn't really happen that often for that big of a seed differential there. And I mean, just the biggest coaching mismatch in the tournament. Yeah, Rick Pitino, who I think is, he's at Iona, but in terms of pure coaching ability, he's the best basketball coach on earth. Guys won championships everywhere, done Final Fours everywhere, goes over to Greece, wins championships over there, comes back to Iona. He's got him in the NCAA tournament for the second time already. And then it's like, okay, he's playing UConn. He's probably going to be going to St. John's next year, staying in New York. Going to be playing UConn even more. Interesting dynamic. You got Dan Hurley, who they have a really, really good team. This is probably Dan Hurley's best team ever. But Dan Hurley does not make it out of the first weekend of NCAA tournament. He's never won a game with UConn in the NCAA tournament. So, I mean, that coaching mismatch is just massive. So I think that'll be a game that'd be really exciting if Iona could pull off the upset. But if UConn makes past that, yeah, I mean, I think UConn's like the third or fourth, they're the fourth seed, but they're like the second best team in this entire bracket.
So
Gonzaga's
it
a
would be
three
crazy
seed.
to you to see a Gonzaga UConn Elite Eight out of this side.
I mean, that would be my prediction. Yeah, I mean, Gonzaga is the best offense in college basketball. They look good lately. I mean, that game against St. Mary's in the WCC tournament, Gonzaga showed for the first time this season that they actually had a really good defense. So if they carry that over into the tournament, yeah, watch out. It's almost kind of like a pressure release valve for Gonzaga too, right? I mean, they've been up on this pedestal for years. They made 2 national championship games. I mean, they were 2 minutes away from beating North Carolina to win a national championship. They had a lead late in that game. And it's just like it keep falling flat, right? And then the whole narrative, which is so wrong, that they like underperform in March Madness, is the opposite is true. However, they haven't gotten over the hump yet. So would it shock me to see Gonzaga make a Final Four this year as a 3 seed? The pressure's spotlight's not really on them, but they still have Drew Timme in his last year. Drew Timme said he's done with college next year, even though he has somehow another 18th year of eligibility. He said he's done. He's moving on.
No way that guy could play a good fixture.
No he way. Has another year of eligibility.
Oh my God, man!
35 years old playing college basketball.
Hey, it's not as bad as Memphis has a dude that's my age, so I mean, yeah. Like actually, I'm not even joking. It's pretty bad.
Ben, you're 19.
No, they have Memphis legitimately has this guy's 26 years old. Like we make fun of Stetson Bennett for being old. That guy actually is 26.
So, staying on you, Ben. Favorite matchup, favorite upset.
Favorite matchup is actually first round UCLA, UNC Asheville. I don't think UNC Asheville can beat UCLA, but they're super fun to watch. Pember, Tyjon Jones, those guys, like they can score. So I think like it's just fun. Like I think they'll be in the game. The spread is not close at all. It's like 18.5 or something. But I would love to see UNC Asheville like make it a close game. There's a fun team to watch. So I think that's my favorite matchup. Upset, I agree with Dom. I think VCU is going to beat St. Mary's. We were on them yesterday. A lot of people were on Dayton yesterday, Dom, but you and I both like VCU. I think VCU can beat St. Mary's for sure. Agree with you that this could get crazy. So since Florida went back-to-back, no defending national champion has made it past the Sweet 16, right? So no defending national champ has made it to the Elite Eight since Florida went back-to-back, which was quite a long time ago. So I agree this could get crazy, and I agree Kansas is probably the weakest number 1 seed. They have a tough, even second-round matchup. Arkansas, they've been super inconsistent this year, but they have made runs the past 2 years, and I think they're really well coached. So they have instantly a tough matchup in their second game. So
yeah, Must Bus is coming off of back-to-back Elite Eights. I mean, and that's a potential second round, or even Illinois. I mean, Illinois it has a lot of talent on that team that could give Kansas some trouble too.
I'm really high on UConn. If they put UConn in the East, it would be so easy for me because I understand what you said about Hurley, but I could just pick I at least feel confident in UConn, so I could just pick them. But they're stuck over here in this craziness, which I hate. Yeah, I think this is tough, but I agree. If Gonzaga defends like they did the last time they played St. Mary's, I think they could beat any team in the tournament. So I definitely like Gonzaga here as well.
I don't know the latest on Adam Bona for UCLA, their big man. He's been injured, but I don't think it's anything serious. So curious to see when he comes back, if he comes back. But they're also missing Jalen Clark, who
Yeah,
then you say
Clark
he's
is
like
just a big. I mean, they're so good defensively. Obviously, him being their best defender doesn't.
he's the
I
biggest
think.
piece. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask you. So, is it you and I both don't like Kansas? Is it music to your ear that Kansas is right now the second most popular national champion pick?
That's wild.
Yeah,
This is not
yeah,
a team that's going to go back to back. I mean,
I know. I'm with you.
this is a team that, and I like Kansas. I had them last year, made a lot of money on them last year, but I'm shocked that they won 27 games this season. To me, they're more like a 21, 22 win type of team that, I mean, talent wise would probably be like a 3 or 4 seed. But I mean, hey, give it to Bill Self. This guy's an outstanding coach. If Kansas were to win it all this year, you're talking about Bill Self surpasses Bobby Knight on the list of all-time greatest college basketball coaches. Like, that's what we're talking about. That's how big of a feat this would be.
So Ben, I was gonna say that like those metrics are just that's all that's 100% public metrics where people aren't doing their due diligence like you guys are doing, where it's like, oh, Kansas won last time, oh, they're number one seed, they
Yeah,
must be good, let me pick them again. So I highly doubt people even know like how the roster has been different than the championship roster. So I don't know. I feel like those particular things, like how many people are picking the championship brackets, I do see them useful, but at the same time, it's taken with a grain of salt. Like how many people even know what
well,
Ken Pom
I
is?
would say most people that are like, if you're watching this video, you're ahead of everyone in your bracket group because 90% of people are just getting the bracket, and then like Tuesday or Wednesday they'll just fill it out, and then like they're not like they might click the little information bubble on whatever site that
Yeah.
they're not like putting any research into it though,
Oh, FAU
and
has 31 wins. FAU's
yeah,
winning
like
that
no one's
quadrant.
doing any research. So, and
Yeah.
then I would also say that most people watching this video, they're double ahead because they're just playing in like their office pool or like something like that, which is full of people that don't know what they're doing and they're just filling out their
Yeah.
brackets. So, yeah.
So before we get to your guys' favorite championship matchups and who you're putting to win it all, I just saw, I don't know if this is available to every state because I know BetMGM is only available in sports betting legal states, but I did see them post. I saw it on LinkedIn I think earlier today that they are doing a $10 million perfect bracket challenge. I don't know if that is available to non-legal betting states because it's a free to enter thing. So I don't really understand. I'm not sure how their contests work, but check that out. If you don't have an account for that, just go to betkarma.com/betmgm, create an account. But that's the only one that's the biggest prize pool out of any company so far that I've seen is that $10 million bracket challenge. But don't bother with that one until you do the gosh dang Bet Karma $10,000 bracket contest as well. All right. So Ben, who's in the championship game and who's winning it?
Oh man, I don't know who. Houston is winning the national championship. That's my pick. I'm sticking with that. I don't know who they're playing yet. All I can tell you is if Alabama is going to be this popular, and everyone I know, Dom, that I've talked to, like in my personal life, they're all like picking Alabama. So I'm gonna pick Alabama to lose probably before the Final Four. The problem is that it's on that same side with this bracket that I hate. So I might have a completely random team. I have no idea. I have
You
no
could have
idea right now.
a
But
double digit seed losing to
no,
Houston.
not that crazy. But I could have like I wish like Gonzaga was on the other side or something. So maybe I could take them. Like I hate this. But I'm not gonna have Alabama in the national championship, and I'm gonna pick Houston to win. I know I'm probably gonna pick Houston to win for sure because I just think they're the best team.
All right, Dom, who's in the championship game and who's winning? I know you already have money on a lot of matchups already. I'm sure. So
I got a handful of futures out there. Some I take preseason, some I take more recently. I did take Alabama more recently when I realized that they don't care about off the court issues. I mean, who's winning it? I still think Houston. You know, I think Kelvin Sampson's been working up to it, and this is his best team yet. I like that they get the Final Four in their hometown in Houston. I think that happened with UCLA like way back, and it hasn't happened since. But I think Houston's going to win it. But if I set that aside, like I would like to see / I could see like an Arizona Gonzaga like West Coast championship, which I know West Coast doesn't really make the championship or win the championship ever. It's been very like East Coast focused. Other than I think Baylor is like the furthest team west geographically to win the national championship. in recent years. But Arizona, Gonzaga would just be fire to me. I mean, Tommy Lloyd, Arizona's coach, I think is one of the most talented, like top 5 coaches in the sport. He's a longtime Gonzaga assistant. Arizona's big man, Omar Ballo, has had a great season. He started at Gonzaga and transferred over with Tommy Lloyd to Arizona. I mean, Ben's mentioning that Alabama is like the most, chalky public side as the number 1 overall. So if they're going to go down and say the Elite 8, a team like Arizona is definitely a team that can beat them. They have the size, they have the guard play, they hit their shots. I mean, and Arizona has beaten a lot of really good teams all season long. I mentioned their inconsistency as being a problem. Winning 6 games in a row where they put their best effort, because they have had some letdowns. Like they lost at Stanford, a game they never should have lost. They lost at home to Arizona State. They never should have lost that. But if you look at what they've done just throughout the season, whenever there's been a step-up game, Arizona's pretty much always come to answer. I mean, Arizona, beat San Diego State, they beat Creighton, they beat Indiana, they beat Tennessee, they beat UCLA 2 out of 3 times. Right? This game or this team, they play for the big games. They play for the moment. So I do have a future on Arizona, and I like it. I'm not throwing away that future right now.
All right, final question before we close up this podcast. Zero prep, right off the cuff, no thinking, just spit it out. Ben, the lowest seed that has a chance to win the championship. Lowest seed that you believe has a realistic shot that you would actually probably put money on if you haven't already.
Well, okay, so I did a TikTok today, Travis. I don't know if you saw, but I kind of answered that question. So
I've been busy, Ben.
Okay,
I've been busy.
okay. So 9 straight years, a team has made the Final Four, like that was outside the top 5, but only in terms of winning the title since 1980, only 5 teams below a 4 seed have won the title. So it's going to, like, you can pick these upsets early and like you might get like a 6 or 7 that makes the Final Four, but when you get down to it, it's most likely going to be a 1, 2, or 3 that wins the national title. So I think lowest seed is probably for me. I would say 4. I'll say 5 just because Duke could get hot. I don't think they're going to win it, but they could get hot if they play like they have been, and I could see them like maybe somehow winning. But I'll say 5 seed is probably the lowest I think could win it all.
All right, so Ben's going with Duke. Dom, what do you got? Lowest seed to win.
I would say 3 seed Gonzaga, but I mean maybe there's some alternate universe out there where Creighton just goes on a run.
Yeah, Creighton's a 6. That could happen for sure. Yeah, you're right.
Fair enough. All right, so that wraps up the 2023 March Madness Predictions podcast. Make sure you guys, for everybody who's lasted this long, congrats. You just won your bracket pool of your work or your friends and everything. Yeah. Congrats, you just won. So make sure you guys are doing the $10,000 free bracket contest. Like I said, it's on betkarma.com. You can see it in the main menu. Just click on bracket contest. Fill that out before Thursday. Take a peek at this BetMGM thing. I'm not sure it's available to all states, but look at it because, hey, $10 million perfect bracket. Why not? And then make sure you are subscribing to this video, like the video, comment your favorite team to win. Good luck, everybody, and may your brackets not be busted, but in all realistic outcomes, they're gonna be smashed in the first week. We already know this. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. See you guys next year.